Hello friends, James Stevenson back with part 25 in my Q4 2022 Tesla earnings video review series. I did the math and realized I am going to have too many videos versus the date that Tesla is going to be announcing the actual deliveries, which is January the 2nd. If I keep making them at the same pace that I've been making them up till now, based on the 30 tweet thread that I sent out November 20th. I think it was a 30 tweet thread. Anyway, I don't want to have way more videos and continue this series out past the day that those production and delivery numbers get reported. So the next two videos, I'm going to try to cover more material, more different topics per video, just so I can get through the rest of it and be ready to start making fresh content after we get some numbers reported from Tesla. So with that, let's check in on Loki's bed and see what Loki's up to. Now don't let him fool you. He looks like he's asleep, but under those pointy ears, he is a beehive of mental acuity and activity. So He's got a lot going on, but he's going to let me go first, talking about the Tesla forecast. In the previous video, we ended on row 1340 here, talking about the total deliveries for Tesla. This is the 9th tweet from the last tweet in my forecast review series. So what I'm going to do is review the next 4 slides, no matter how different the topics on them are. I'm going to go through them a little faster than I was going through them when I was in my spreadsheet clicking through formulas and tracing them back and explaining them and stuff. So the next tweet in my thread after this one repeated most of the same information over the top half of the page, but gave you the full page look because underneath row 1340, I do deliveries again, except instead of doing them by site and by model, they're collapsed by model only. So you can see for every model how many of that model Tesla is delivering globally by quarter. And so you've got that for 2021, 2022, and 2023 here. So for S and X, it's the same numbers that you've already seen reported because those models are only produced at Fremont. So nothing new to talk about there. For 3 and Y, these are being added up. In the case of 3, from Fremont and from Shanghai. So you can see how total global Model 3 has been selling. The big noticeable dent in here was due to the Shanghai lockdowns in Q2. Glad to hear that China will no longer be doing lockdowns as their COVID strategy going forward. At least that's how it seems today. Hopefully that holds. And then for Model Y, there's 4 different factories producing Model Y today, adding up to these totals. So I've got 250,000 Model Ys being produced globally, with 55,000 of those in Fremont, 142,000 from Shanghai. You know, this is a monster Model Y factory. Then, 30,000 out of Berlin and 27,000 out of Texas. So that's how you get to your total here. And then in my forecast, as of November 20th, I expected that Tesla would deliver 8 Tesla semis. As it turns out, they delivered 34 already as of a couple of weeks ago. So Tesla's going to beat my semi forecast by a lot, which is going to be a big percentage variance, but the dollars are not very big on this. Still really good news that Tesla is ramping up semi-production ahead of my forecast. And I talked about in the previous video, I'll be updating and revising up my forecast. What's the next slide here? This is where I show automotive revenue per delivery. So you've got total revenue per delivery here, with my expectation that in Q4, the total revenue per delivery will be a little less on average than it was in Q3. This is owing to A little decrease in Model S price, so they reduced the price for Model S this quarter. X a little bit higher, 3 pretty well flat, and then Y down just slightly on a per vehicle basis. And then when you do the weighted average of those, it's down some because more of the lower priced ones are being sold. Then in this next section, I've got total automotive revenue per delivery by type. So in a previous video, I walked you through the total dollars of revenue in this same breakdown by option type. This look is giving it to you for all of the vehicles at all of the sites combined. What's their average revenue per delivery? So it's a little strange to look at because of the mix impacts. When you sell more of the lower priced ones, then the total revenue per delivery is going to come down, right? So what do I have for Q4 2022? $47,537 per vehicle in base price. That's $1,000 less than it was last quarter, and $2,700 less than it was 2 quarters ago with the Shanghai lockdowns. Then I had slightly higher in Q1 and then lower again in Q2. I mean, really flat. 47,000 every quarter is kind of what you would characterize these next 7 quarters worth of forecast as in total. I may be reducing this some in light of the comments Elon made in that Twitter space about wanting to reduce prices to be able to move every vehicle Tesla can produce. So probably we're going to see these base prices come down. Then you've got all the other option prices below, which get you to the cash buyer ASP, or how much the revenue would be if everyone who bought a Tesla paid cash for it at delivery, or paid for it at delivery. Then this next line is negative because you have to adjust for the fact that not everybody does pay you for the total amount of the Tesla they purchased. Some people are leasing that vehicle with the intention to give it back at the end of 2 years. So you don't get all the revenue from them. What you get is the car back after 3 years, and then you can sell it again. So what's the impact on that overall? Again, on an average revenue per vehicle basis, it's $2,200 worth of impact from doing leased sales as a minority component of your sales mix. Giving you, bottom line, 55 grand. I've got this growing some next year. If you want to look at where the growth is coming from, it's on this full self-driving line. My forecast has sales of FSD increasing every quarter as more people figure out what a great benefit that FSD software is and how awesome it is to have a car that can drive you all the way to where you want to go. There aren't very many automakers who can sell you a car that can drive you where you want to go, all the way to your destination. A lot of automakers have like a highway assist function to follow the car in front of you and stay in the center of your lane. Well, that's a very basic feature. Full self-driving is a very advanced, sophisticated feature that in the beta build can also do city streets, turns, unprotected lefts, roundabouts, all sorts of stuff. And that software gets better all the time, with many people experiencing zero intervention trips already. So that's FSD. I've got some lines down here for FSD sales plus other revenue / deferrals. That's one of the lines on here. GAAP earnings per delivery. Okay, so we've got some other per delivery metrics down here. GAAP earnings, non-GAAP earnings, adjusted EBITDA, and EBIT per delivery. So tons of profit in my forecast here for Q4 on a per vehicle basis. Other automakers would love to be making more than $10,000 per vehicle worth of any of these profit metrics, and most of them are not. So if Tesla can sell more and more FSD as time goes by, FSD doesn't have variable cost that comes with it. It doesn't cost Tesla more money to put FSD software on your car than to not have that over-the-air update happen, or it's an insignificant, immaterial cost to send you the software update. So that just falls straight through to the bottom line at nearly a 100% profit margin on the FSD sale. So that's going to happen in the future. Maybe I'm going to have to readjust my timing for how quickly that's going to happen as these features roll out globally. Probably it won't sell very well in markets where it's not available, but then after it is and awareness grows, it should sell better. All right, so that's the metrics on that page. How many of these have I done so far? I have only done 2. So the next 2 slides are the last 2 that I'll cover in this video. 12 trailing month deliveries are here. How many million vehicles did Tesla deliver over the year that ended in each of these quarters? I'm forecasting that number is going to be 1,329,000 vehicles for the full year 2022-ish. And for that to continue next year with 2.26 million vehicles in 2023 delivered. So hopefully that forecast is close, not too far off. Whatever you forecast, it will be wrong. That's the first rule of forecasting. The second rule of forecasting is be less wrong. So I update my forecast at least twice per quarter, trying to make it less wrong. 12 trailing month revenues, you can see those growing as time passes. It didn't grow very much in Q2 because of the Shanghai lockdowns, but since then it has. And I'm expecting it to continue ramping on up past 83 billion. And then it'll be over 100 billion by Q2 of next year and never look back. 12 trailing month adjusted EBITDA. One of the profit metrics is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. I made a video about that recently. You can check out if you want to learn more about EBITDA. And then non-GAAP earnings per delivery. Non-GAAP earnings are the kind that Wall Street cares about, excluding stock-based compensation is the main adjustment there. So more than $11 billion. Nope, more than $11,000 worth of non-GAAP earnings per delivery is what this number is telling you. Just up slightly from what it was in Q2 and Q3. Tesla's had strong earnings lately, and I'm forecasting that to continue. And then if you just subtract out regulatory credit revenue, that's not valid accounting to do, but some people demand that you do this calculation, so I have it in my earnings model for those people who say, oh yeah, subtract the regulatory credits and then see how much is left. Well, it's still almost as much, right? So I'm forecasting that this figure will cross $10,000 per vehicle worth of non-GAAP earnings per delivery, excluding regulatory credits for the first time. Then we've got revenue by type here. So these are just revenue dollars in billions by automotive revenue versus energy versus services and other. So you can see how I have those ramping. A lot of people are speculating now that energy may ramp a lot faster than this. I've got it ramping pretty quick. I mean, I've got it doubling between now and a year from now from 1.3 billion to 2.6 billion Q4 of 2023. That would be really good if Tesla can ramp up that high. We'll see how it goes. Maybe Tesla will beat my near-term forecast for energy here and force me to raise it faster than that. So we'll see. Then we've got the costs and the expenses by type here. So automotive cost of sales is your number one cost, but it's also your number one source of revenue and your number one source of gross profit or gross margins, which is the money that's left after paying for cost of sales. So just a data table here showing you what those costs look like. The everything else excluding stock comp here is a negative number in Q4 because of that one-time tax favorability I expect Tesla will have in my forecast for Q4 2022. We'll see whether that happens or not. Then it's also bringing this number down by 0.4 billion from where it would otherwise be a little over 1 billion. Taxes, got to pay taxes, don't forget about that. Then the next page is all about these penny charts that you saw very early in my forecast. I skipped the next section because it was just those pennies again for those charts, which is not that exciting to look at or talk about. But the next section here is cost of sales percentage by site and product. I'll finish with this slide showing you what Tesla's cost of sales percentages are by site and by model, what's in my forecast. So I do have this going up a little for Model S, down some for Model X, which is still ramping up its scale. How does this work? The more Model X's you can produce per shift, the lower the labor cost per vehicle goes. And maybe the more efficiencies you can gain on your other costs and parts and raw materials. Then I've got Fremont Model 3s getting a little bit better cost of sales percentage here. Same with Model Y. So overall, Fremont looking a little bit more efficient as a percent of revenue here. Then for Shanghai, I've got those costs up just slightly, up 1 point for Shanghai Model 3s and Model Ys. And when you average those together, it rounds to more than 1.5 points. So that's how you get from 66 to 68. Then Berlin and Austin ought to be decreasing the cost of sales every time they can produce more vehicles per shift, because you're paying your workers by the hour, but you're selling the vehicles by the unit. So the more of the units you can produce per shift, the lower the labor cost per vehicle produced will fall, which improves your cost of sales percentage, which is what this shows. Then for Semi, I have an enormous 280% cost of sales here because their sales are so low, right? I had them selling only 8 semis, so maybe it'll be better than this. But they're not going to be making tons of money per semi very early in the ramp. They're going to need to scale up past the break-even point first before they'll have a cost of sales percentage below 1, meaning before they'll be making a profit on every semi sold. So this is what's in here for my cost of sales percentages with the total down here at the bottom. 73% is what I'm forecasting, a little higher than the previous few quarters. You can see it was into the it was knocked down below 70% for a few quarters here as Tesla was charging higher prices. Those are down some now. But I have it returning to those, aided by the full self-driving revenue growth that we just saw, if that materializes. Then we've got regulatory credits impact on cost of sales percentage. You know, it doesn't cost you very much to sell a regulatory credit, but it is helping your cost of sales percentage that you have revenue from selling regulatory credits. So if you throw that out, then the cost of sales percent excluding regulatory credits is always going to be higher, right? Which is what this is showing. Okay. Then for the non-automotive, here's the energy division. You know, a lot of these products are over 100% or have been historically in the quarters when Tesla wasn't making any money off of the energy division, even at the gross profit line, which is not fantastic. You don't want that trend to stick around for very long. And services and other, likewise, a very high cost of sales percentage for this business because Tesla isn't trying to charge such high prices that they're making a lot of profit out of their service division. And That gives you the total overall cost of sales percentage, which is much closer to the automotive cost of sales percentage than it is to these other two, because automotive is where most of the dollars are coming from for revenue. And that's how the mix works. So that's the total cost of sales percentage. I said I was going to stop here, but I'm going to give you the next slide too in this video because it's exactly the same thing the previous chart was, the previous slide was, except it's just 1 minus the cost of sales percentage gives you the gross margin. So for every dollar of sales that you have for any of these kinds of things, you've got so many pennies worth of cost. So however many pennies worth of cost there are per dollar of revenue, you subtract those from the dollar, and that gives you the gross margin, or how much was left over after paying for the direct costs associated with producing the products and delivering them to their customers. And that is the end of this video. So let's check back in with Loki and see if he's moved. Nope, not even a little bit. And with that, I will say if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel right over here. And click the notification bell to get alerted if you want to know when I post fresh content. Thank you to everyone who supports me with your likes, your comments, your attaboys, or by supporting me through Patreon or joining my YouTube channel, as Kathy Kitchler and Halter Ferguson Financial did at the executive producer level. And I will see you in the next one.